On that humid May night in 2005, Charleston Avenue settled into a kind of silence that felt heavier than usual, as if the entire street were holding its breath without knowing why. The pavement shone with a thin layer of moisture, catching the faint glow of porch lights that flickered in still pockets of warm air. In the distance, the last notes of the prom music seemed to hover longer than physics should allow, drifting through the neighborhood like an echo reluctant to fade. 4 teenagers walked side by side. Megan with her habitual bursts of laughter that needed no explanation. Michael tugging at the borrowed jacket that never quite fit. Dante moving with the ease of someone approaching home territory. And Edric scanning the street with the calm curiosity of someone wishing the night wouldn't end just yet. Nothing about their steps suggested danger. Nothing foreshadowed the invisible line they were about to cross. The house where they stopped was small, worn and unremarkable to anyone passing by. But in old police intelligence notes, it appeared tied to sporadic, low-level drug activity, a detail that years later would twist itself into harmful speculation about the victims. None of the 4 had any connection to the house's past. They had no enemies, no debts, no ties to anything criminal. Their only plan was simple: step inside, change out of their prom clothes, rest their feet and head home. What happened next unfolded with a speed that froze the street into stillness. Several sharp gunshots cracked through the night. Not wild, scattered shots, but controlled, deliberate, and chillingly precise. Residents who were awake said they heard no screams afterward. No running, no struggle. Only the gunfire, and then a silence so complete it felt physical. When the first officers arrived, they found the 4 teenagers close together. Nothing stolen, nothing overturned, nothing suggesting chaos. The scene carried none of the marks of a robbery, gone wrong, or a spontaneous burst of rage. Everything pointed to careful, intentional violence. Investigators immediately noted the precision, the angles, the timing, the grouping of the shots. Whoever fired knew exactly what they were doing. It was coordinated, practiced, and purposeful. The kind of execution that raises a terrifying question from the moment it's seen. Why them? Why 4 teenagers with clean records, simple routines, and no conflicts that could justify such cold intent? As dawn rose, that question only sharpened. Someone had chosen that exact block, that exact moment, and had slipped away without leaving anything usable behind. No footprints, no casings, no vehicle description, nothing. The crime didn't look impulsive or emotional. It looked orchestrated. As sunlight cut across the pavement, the street carried an unsettling impression, as if Charleston Avenue already knew the truth would not come easily, and that the silence settling over it was only the beginning. By sunrise, Charleston Avenue felt heavier than the early light could explain. Officers who returned found a scene disturbingly intact, as if time had paused at the gunshots. The humid air carried a metallic scent. Nothing around the bodies was touched, no overturned items, no footprints, no struggle signs. The stillness wasn't peaceful. It was controlled. Forensic techs confirmed the teens never understood what was happening. The shots were fast, tight, executed with chilling confidence. As detectives canvassed the area, fragments emerged. Several residents recalled a dark sedan moving slowly through the block earlier. No one agreed on the car's make or occupants, but all shared the same unease. The vehicle wasn't just passing through. It moved with quiet patience, slowing at corners, lingering near the house where the teens had stopped. After the gunfire, it vanished. No engine rev, no sharp turn, no sound. It felt erased, not driven away. Attention turned to the small house, peeling paint, sunken porch, quiet presence. The teens had no crime links, but the house carried stains from old police reports. In neighborhoods where disputes simmer beneath the surface, certain locations hold weight long after memories fade. If the attack targeted the property, not the people, the meaning shifted entirely. The teens may have stepped into a conflict without seeing it. Ballistics deepened the dread. The shot pattern suggested multiple shooters, spacing too clean, angles too coordinated, timing too tight for one impulsive actor. Detectives recognized the marks of a warning, swift, silent, message-driven. But as investigators pressed deeper, Charleston Avenue withdrew. Doors opened only a crack. Once clear statements grew vague. Some cited exhaustion or confusion. Others murmured about not wanting problems, but refused to explain. Curtains moved, faces didn't appear. This wasn't confusion. It was fear, quiet, practiced, ingrained. Detectives felt the shift. The silence had shape, rhythm, purpose. Whether the teens were targets or bystanders, one truth emerged. The neighborhood knew more than it would say. Beneath the humid dawn, investigators sensed something larger, controlled, deliberate, and deeply rooted. Charleston Avenue wasn't hiding out of loyalty. It was hiding out of survival. As the investigation's first days turned into weeks, a name surfaced quietly among detectives: Charleston Bunny Holmes. She appeared in old intelligence files tied to local drug movements that once threaded through the area. Though never charged, her presence shaped a persistent theory. The attack was a message, not a personal vendetta, a warning, territorial correction, or retaliation for something happening far beneath the teenager's awareness. This theory didn't suggest the victims were involved. Instead, it implied something colder. The teens may have stepped into an invisible boundary already humming with tension. In neighborhoods shaped by silence and survival, certain houses or corners carry meaning long after the people change. If the shooters intended to send a message to whoever controlled that house, the victims were simply in the way. Tragedy born from geography, not intent. Another theory grew just as persistent. One of the teens may have witnessed something days earlier. A conversation, an exchange, a vehicle parked where it shouldn't have been. Something small but dangerous to the wrong person. If they had seen something they shouldn't have, the attack might have been designed to erase a detail before it reached the wrong ears. The speed, precision, and silence of the violence supported this. Nothing felt chaotic. It felt executed. A third theory, quiet but stubborn, spoke of mistaken identity. Some residents mentioned another vehicle, similar in shape and color to the one associated with the victims, regularly seen near the block and tied to someone with a criminal past. If the shooters were watching the street and mistook the teens for their intended targets, the attack might have been a horrifying miscalculation. But even this theory struggled against one unshakable fact. The attack occurred at a house already carrying tension. The address mattered. The neighborhood's silence deepened. Conversations shortened, edges sharpened. People who once spoke openly now avoided detectives entirely. Some changed their versions of events. Others refused to acknowledge they had ever spoken at all. The fear was no longer subtle. It spread through the block like a current. Detectives felt it pressing back. Every promising lead dissolved as pressure increased. It wasn't resistance, it was self-protection. The street was holding something back, preserving a truth shaped by fear, history, and survival instinct. Charleston Avenue didn't just contain a crime scene. It contained a boundary no one dared cross.
Years later, a new investigative team returned to the cold case, expecting decay and gaps. Instead, they found interrupted patterns, not abandoned ones. Promising leads ended abruptly without explanation. Notes from early reports were missing from later files. Witnesses who had cooperated vanished from documentation. The stagnation felt constructed, not accidental. Retired officers recalled an intangible boundary they sensed at first. Night, an invisible perimeter made of fear, not tape. They described feeling watched, monitored not by shooters, but by the neighborhood itself. The entire block seemed to decide, collectively and silently, what would be allowed to surface. Charleston Avenue wasn't just withholding details, it was actively curating them. The new team reconstructed the victims' final days. They found nothing unusual. No threats, no arguments, no strange encounters. The teenagers had gone to school, prepared for prom, taken family photos, laughed with friends, and stepped into the night without a shadow behind them. Their lives were painfully ordinary. This absence of motive combined with the attack's precision pointed to a devastating conclusion. The victims weren't chosen. The location was. The house where they stopped was eventually sold, gutted, and demolished. Only a single large tree remained, casting long shadows across the empty lot. Over time, residents began leaving flowers, candles, and small tokens at its base. No one claimed responsibility. The memorial grew without ownership, the way grief does when truth is missing. Investigators noted something else. People still spoke softly when walking past the lot, even years later. Children were hushed. Teenagers stayed in the sidewalk's center. Adults avoided eye contact with the space entirely. The fear had outlived the facts. The new team pushed deeper, interviewing figures connected to old neighborhood disputes, former gang members, and individuals tied to territorial conflicts. Every line of inquiry bent toward the same conclusion. The truth was trapped in layers of fear, loyalty, and survival instincts. No forensic evidence could unlock it. Only someone from within the block could, and none would. One detective wrote in her final notes, "This case is shaped less by what happened that night and more by what people believe will happen if they speak." Charleston Avenue had turned silence into a shield, and the truth remained somewhere behind it. 2 decades later, Huntington still feels the weight of the Prom Night Murders. The case remains technically open, but progress is rare and fragile. The lack of resolution has carved itself into the community, feeding a belief that someone connected to the crime was protected by fear, by influence, or by the quiet power structures no official report acknowledges. Documents that end abruptly, witnesses who vanish from records, and leads that dissolve without reason, all contribute to the suspicion that the truth was not lost but buried. One common theory suggests the shooters may no longer be alive, taken by unrelated conflicts or absorbed into criminal networks larger than anything local detectives could touch. This explanation offers order, but no comfort. Justice delivered in shadows is not justice for the families left behind. Closure requires names, accountability, acknowledgement. None ever came. Another theory is darker, that the attack intersected with broader territorial shifts happening. At the time, subtle reorganizations of control that touched multiple groups. In those environments, naming one person can unravel many. If the murders were tied to a larger dispute, maintaining silence may have been strategic, a deliberate choice by those who stood to lose the most. This theory doesn't soothe. It complicates. For the families, the absence of answers remains the deepest wound. Grief without explanation becomes something different, timeless, circular without anchor. The teenagers lost futures they hadn't even imagined yet, and the city lost a part of its sense of safety. Even now, people walk faster near the empty lot. They speak softer. They avoid looking directly at the tree that stands where the house once did. First-time visitors often mention feeling a sudden shift in the air, an instinctive heaviness they can't explain. Every year, without fail, new candles, new flowers, and new tokens appear. No public announcement accompanies them. No one steps forward to say they placed them. It doesn't matter. The memorial persists because the memory persists, because silence persists. Some tragedies sink into history. This one circles the surface, refusing to settle. The Prom Night Murders became one of those stories that communities hold tightly, not because of sensational details, but because of what was taken and what was never returned. The truth remains sealed behind fear, behind old loyalties, behind decisions made in the dark. And as long as it stays hidden, the echoes of that night continue to move through Charleston Avenue like a second, quieter shadow. The case is not closed. It's simply somewhere no one has dared to reach.